Getting into Marvel Comics is an exciting yet intimidating time, so let me be the first to welcome you to the wonderful world of Marvel. Whether you're in love with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and looking for more, or simply fell out of favor with comics in an earlier decade and want to catch up, there are plenty of entry points for all kinds of readers. Since Marvel has been publishing an ongoing continuity of a shared universe since Fantastic Four #1 in 1961, there are tens of thousands of comics across thousands of series of titles. It can be wildly confusing to try and read them all, which is why Comic Book Herald is here to take as much of the confusion out of the equation as possible. Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Herald's Where to Start with Marvel. I'm Dave Busing, founder and editor-in-chief of comicbookherald.com. If you like Comic Book Herald and the CBH YouTube channel, please consider liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting. All that fun stuff helps me out a great deal. Everything I talk about here today, you're going to find links in the show notes as well. That'll take you over to comicbookherald.com. So I'm going to recommend 4 tried and true paths to get into Marvel Comics, but before I do, a caveat. There will be a temptation to try and read absolutely everything, and for that I would recommend My Marvelous Year, a comic book reading club and podcast where we go through the history of Marvel Comics from its origins to today. Join all of us in the completely insane yet totally understandable quest as we read every single year of Marvel publication history, year by year, enjoying the best stories and the most essential. Trust me, doing it on your own is the surest path to feeling like Marvel Comics are homework, and that is the thing we want to avoid the most. It's supposed to be fun. So let's get to it. Number 1, in the beginning, the essential Marvel classics. Now, the most obvious temptation is to start at the beginning with all the glorious 1960s creativity and origins. At some point in this approach, you're going to hit a wall, and that's where the aforementioned My Marvelous Year pod comes in, but it can be a really fun way to develop a passion for this universe. For my money, I'd recommend checking out Marvel's earliest standout comics, Amazing Spider-Man by Steve Ditko, John Romita, and Stan Lee, which begins with Amazing Fantasy number 15 in 1963, and Fantastic Four by Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, which began in 1961. These are 2 of my 50 favorite runs in comics ever, and if you enjoy the style and experience, it could be worth diving into more from the era, right? Strange Tales with Doctor Strange, and Journey into Mystery with Thor from there. For new readers, note that these comics feel like they were written in the 1960s, and guess what? They were. The Silver Age style of comics and Stan Lee's verbose dialogue is not for everyone today. Don't worry if it's not working for you. There's plenty more to check out as we proceed, but these are the beginnings, right? It's a great starting point. It makes sense. At least getting a feel for it is often worth the effort. Number 2, the second approach. Gimme the hits. The top 25 most important Marvel stories from 1961 to 2000. If you want to know how the Marvel Universe progresses throughout its first 40 years, but don't necessarily want to sink all of your time into more middle-of-the-road product, I've also compiled a list of the top 25 stories from Marvel during this time. Now, I won't read them all here. The link is in the show notes. But in addition to the essential origin stories, this guide will take you through Chris Claremont's X-Men, right? The origins of Wolverine on the X-Men. Frank Miller's landmark Daredevil. The 1990s event Age of Apocalypse. This combines the cream of the crop from the essential Silver Age classics with the preceding 4 decades of great comics, fast-tracking your way through the 20th century in 25 curated great selections. Iron Man, Demon in a Bottle, Secret Wars, Infinity Gauntlet. It's all here. It's a great approach for someone who just wants to dive in and cover the hits. The third approach, being young and hip. How about the best modern Marvel comics? If you gave them a shot and think those old Marvel comics are for the birds, or your great grandparents, there are a few good ways to launch into modern Marvel comics from 1998 onwards. I have 2 key guides here on CBH. Again, links in the show notes. The first is Comic Book Herald's complete modern Marvel reading order, starting in 1998 with Marvel Knights and kind of the modernization and reinvention of what Marvel Comics can be. And the second is my picks for the best 100 Marvel comics from 1998 to 2015. The major difference between these 2 approaches is that part 1 of the CBH reading order will take you through every Marvel story in chronological reading order through present day. This guide is updated constantly, and as we head into the new year, includes Marvel's most recent events, which we'll discuss next. In short, the top 100 Marvel comic guide is best for readers who just want to get started with the good stuff. The Comic Book Herald reading order is for those who want to try and read as much of the Marvel Universe as possible. You'll be pretty well versed in all things Marvel either way, exploring Avengers Disassembled, Civil War, Annihilation, Planet Hulk, Secret Wars, again, and everything in between. Now, the fourth option. and the one we're going to spend the most time on. How about right about now? If you're less interested in catching up on Marvel's vast history and would instead like to jump into the current ongoing state of Marvel Comics this year, there's a fair amount of background you'll need to understand for what's going on. Beginning in May 2018, Marvel launched an initiative known as Marvel Fresh Start, which effectively marks the most recent wave of comic starting points for readers in 2023. If you missed out, Comic Book Herald has a complete guide to getting started with Fresh Start over on the site. It's important to note that Marvel Continuity doesn't offer any sort of hard reboot with Fresh Start in 2018. So if you really want the most modern context for everything that's happening, the Comic Book Herald Marvel Reading Order from 1998 onwards is really your best bet, right, for modern continuity. To dive into what's new, though, with the X-Men, Avengers, and other Marvel staples, Fresh Start is a good jumping-on point. It'll pave the way for you to enjoy the classics from this era, including Immortal Hulk, X-Men House of X, and Venom. Here are my picks for the top 10 most essential reads. I'm going to keep it to 10. Here's what you need to know. Number 1, Immortal Hulk. Simply put, Al Ewing and Joe Bennett's 50-plus issues make up the best Hulk run of all time, a supernatural horror mashup reconciling Hulk's vast history and aimless 2010s. It's an instant classic and a must-read, whether you consider yourself a big Hulk fan or not. Number 2, Venom, Absolute Carnage, and King in Black. Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman's reimagining of Venom and Marvel's symbiote starts off incredibly strong and maintains universe-wide importance through to its conclusion in King in Black. This run will take you through the 2019 Absolute Carnage event and the 2021 King in Black event, all of which relates to the new supervillain God Null, a major new player in the Marvel cosmic scene. And actually, I think it's a 2020 event, but, what are years? Number 3, House of X, Powers of 10, and XMen Inferno 2021 edition, one of the most significant game changers in the history of the Marvel Universe. Hoxpox repositions the entire trajectory of Marvel's mutants, X-Men, and frankly the universe at large. Jonathan Hickman, Pepe Larraz, R.B. Silva, Marte Gracia, and crew delivered an all-time great X-Men event that set the stage for the next who even knows how many years of X comics to come. Now, there are a lot of X comics in between worth reading, but 2021's Inferno is the event follow-up from writer Jonathan Hickman and is essential to understanding the progression of Krakoa. Number 4, Daredevil in Dark Reign. Devil's Reign. Chip Zdarsky and Marco Cicchetto's Daredevil joins the long line of top-tier creators, making Daredevil Marvel's most consistently great comic throughout their history. The Daredevil run is so strong, with great takes on Matt Murdock, Elektra, and Kingpin, that it builds to a Marvel Universe event in Devil's Reign, where Wilson Fisk, the mayor of New York, outlaws superheroes in his city. Number 5, Eternals and Judgment Day. If you had the Eternals as a pick to become one of Marvel's best comics of the 2020s, congratulations on your exclusive gift to Prophecy. The Jack Kirby created also-rans finally got a run worthy of the king when Kieran Gillen and Esad Ribic took over the title and built a run so strong it drove towards a Marvel Universe-wide event in Axe Judgment Day. The Axe there standing for Avengers, X-Men, Eternals. The X-Men vs. Eternals showdown is one of Marvel's best events of the past decade with cataclysmic celestial action and major Eternals ramifications. Number 6, Moon Knight. Most of the picks on this list are meant to cover some combination of quality and continuity, but with Moon Knight by Jed MacKay and Alessandro Cappuccio, it's pretty much just because the book is that damn good. Since launch in 2021, MacKay and Cappuccio have crafted one of the most stylized and effective runs in Moon Knight history, and one of the top 10 Marvel Comics year in and year out. If you just want something consistently good without a lot of big picture baggage, this is a great one to start with. Number 7, Timeless. Sets the stage for the Marvel Universe to come. Speaking of Jed MacKay, he'll be relaunching Avengers in May 2023, and his annual Timeless issues starring King the Conqueror are simultaneously great character studies on the MCU's next big bad, and exciting teasers of what's to come this year in the Marvel Comics universe. Honestly, these could easily feel like trite advertisements, but MacKay makes them so much better than they have any right to be. Number 8, Immortal XMen and X-Men Red. Honestly, this all brings us real close to present day at the start of 2023, which means it's time to catch up on the best of X-Men. 2 big X events are promised this year in Sins of Sinister and The Fall of X, and if you want to experience the best stories on the road to those events, you should check out Immortal XMen by Gillen and Lucas Wernick, and X-Men Red by Al Ewing and a whole host of collaborators. These books have been amazing. Number 9, Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty and Symbol of Truth. For most of Fresh Start, Captain America is written by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and it's a predictably interesting run with some wonderful high points, if a bit inconsistent. I'd recommend checking it out, but it's the 2022 launch of dueling Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers books that is the most essential right now. In Sentinel of Liberty, you have co-writers Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly and Carmen Carnero tackling Steve Rogers' explorations of the shadowy outer circle. And in Symbol of Truth, writer Tochi Onyebuchi and R.B. Silva dig into Sam reclaiming the Captain America mantle and going up against the White Wolf's grand schemes. It's timely, politically savvy, compelling, and all building to a Cold War crossover in 2023. Number 10, Invincible Iron Man. So far in Fresh Start, the peak of Iron Man comics came when Tony found himself trapped on an alien planet with the original Stiltman Wilbur Day. No comics will ever be that good again, but the Iron Man relaunch by Jerry Duggan and Juan Ferreira is off to a really strong start, and because of Duggan's ties to the X-Office, promises a lot of crossover with the center of the Marvel Universe, aka Krakoa and the Mutants. Fifth, surprise option for where to start with Marvel Comics in 2023, just follow your favorite characters. Instead of reading the shared universe as a whole, you can always follow particular characters around as well, and CBH has reading guides for just about anyone you can think of. Spidey, check. Wolverine, check. Glob Herman, check. You name it. Nothing wrong with this approach, just as there's really no wrong way to do it in the first place, aside from trying to read literally everything or getting analysis paralysis. There you have it, a roadmap to getting into Marvel Comics. Remember, the most important thing is to pick something and just start. And be sure to check out the companion video that I have on here on Comic Book Herald's YouTube channel for all of what I recommend reading in the future to come, as well as regular X-Men and comics analysis. Keep calm and enjoy the comics.